After you, dear boy.
No, after you.
No, do go first. I'm not really very good at the high bits. I'm much better low.
Well, we'll see.
One, two.
Ciao tutti! My name is JP Pfluger, and I am the director of Oscar Wilde's The Importance of Being Earnest for Erasmus Theatre Company's 2024 season. I have over 30 years worth of experience in the theatre from New York to Tokyo to London and of course to Rome and many beautiful cities in the country of Italy. Now my first experience of Italy was in 2009 when I worked for Erasmus Theatre Company playing Petruchio in Shakespeare's The Taming of the Shrew. Following that, in 2010, I played Elvis Presley in The King of Rock. Now, I'm thrilled to have been invited back for this 2024 season to direct The Importance of Being Earnest, and I've been asked to answer a series of questions on this production. They will now follow. So, why perform this play, The Importance of Being Earnest? Well, it was first performed in 1895. That's almost 130 years ago. And yet, it still bears as much relevance then as it does today. For example, today we have the Tinder dating app, where many people create profiles where they pretend to be something or somebody that they are not, just to improve their chances of romance. Well, the protagonists of The Importance of Being Earnest do exactly that, and this can end in very difficult and embarrassing situations, which I will now explain. So, a little bit about the plot of our play. It follows the protagonists Jack and Algernon, two men who assume the false identity of another man called Earnest. They do this to pursue the hearts of two women called Cecily and Gwendolen, who conveniently only fall in love with men who are called Earnest. Well, a ridiculous plot ensues in which there is much high comedy because of the situations our protagonists find themselves in. They find themselves in a challenging situation with our antagonist, Lady Bracknell, who is a formidable character. Now, this is a comedy of manners. It focuses on the themes of marriage, of class, of social expectation. The plot is quite ridiculous, and the characters are exaggerated, and it will be a satire on the upper classes of Victorian England. More to follow. So, how are we going to keep an Italian audience engaged? After all, this is your second language. Well, first of all, The Importance of Being Earnest has something called dramatic irony. So this means that we, as an audience, are always aware that Algernon and Jack are not who they say they are. We know that they are not Earnest, whereas all the other characters are not aware of these secrets. Now, as an audience, when you are involved in the secrets and lies of a character, that already keeps you involved because you are complicit and part of the secret. Secondly, what other things are we going to do to keep the audience engaged? First of all, the use of a lot of colour, the lot of physical comedy, a lot of crystal clear articulation. We will use a lot of lighting and music and choreography and bring the whole piece alive by also sometimes addressing the audience and getting them involved as well. And of course, I won't tell you everything because the element of surprise is also the thing that will keep the audience on the edge of their seats and engaged. More to follow. Well, the sun has gone down, but I am still here. I want to talk to you now about language. It is impossible to engage an audience if they do not understand the language. So what do we do to help with that? First of all, we spend a long time preparing the script so that it is true to the original and yet allows for adaptation for comprehension. This means sometimes we will edit the script so that we get rid of any unnecessary language. Once we have the necessary language in place, we then might exchange some English words for other English words that are similar to Italian words but have the same meaning. Also, we'll work very closely with the actors to make sure that their thoughts, their intentions, and their pronunciation is very clear. Also, a great deal of communication is non-verbal. So we'll work on physical gesture to support the text, to support the understanding, to support engaging the English learners of every level. We will also borrow from the lexicon of your Italian gestures, because Italians are masters of gesture, so we will borrow some of those gestures and add them into our production to help with understanding. More to follow. I've been asked how much of myself as a director I put into a show. Well, a huge amount, but not at the expense of the story. My simple aim is to be as true to what I believe the writer's intentions originally were. So often I like to begin with a colour palette of how I think the set and costumes will look like. What I want it visually to be. So how will the set best serve the purpose of the story? How will the costumes help to bring a character to life? Then when the actors arrive and they are introduced, I think it's very, very important that the actors take ownership and pride in what they are performing every day. That is why it's so important in the rehearsal room that they're encouraged to share their ideas and we work together as an ensemble to create and overcome any problems that there may be. Then, once we have collected all of those ideas, I will edit according to what I think the best choices will be for an audience to understand that story. And this story being the importance of being earnest. Finally, I'll work with an experienced team of lighting engineers so that we can help to focus the attention of an audience member on a particular element within a scene. So these are some of the things and some of the ways I like to work as a director. But the most important thing is telling the story as clearly as possible and using all the ideas from the actors and anyone else involved in the production. So I listen, I respond, and I edit. And it's all done with heart and passion. So, I've been asked the question, as a director, what importance I put on the elements of the set, the lighting and music. Well, I think the best food in the world comes from Italy. So, as Italians, you know that if you add salt to your food, it can enhance the flavor of your food. But if you add too much salt, it can totally ruin the flavor. And that's as I think of those elements. In a play that I'm directing, the food element are the actors being able to skillfully communicate with an audience. Then you add those elements of music, of lighting, of set, and they can enhance the production. But you don't want to overdo it. You want to have them there to support the show. That is important. I wouldn't want to be without those elements. But the most important elements for me are the actor's ability to communicate the story and triggering the imagination of the audience. And then, as an added bonus, we add the salt, but just the right amount. Finally, I've been asked to say what I believe the value of this adaptation of The Importance of Being Earnest brings to its audience. Well, I could answer that in the words of Oscar Wilde himself. He said that we should treat all trivial things in life very seriously, and all serious things of life with a sincere and studied triviality. So, that is a topsy-turvy, inverted wisdom that Oscar Wilde brings to us. So, this adaptation will continue to bring laughter, a better comprehension of English, entertainment. It will also allow us to see that in 130 years there's been very little change in the way that humans like to pretend that they are something that they are not in order to gain romantic favor with a desirable partner. But again, we see that it often ends in disaster or embarrassment. But does this play have a happy ending? Well, you're going to have to come and watch it to find out. So, go to the Erasmus website and book your ticket at your nearest possible theatre in Italy. I'd love to see you there. Take care. Bye.
So cruel and so fair. True love is but a woman's toy. They never know the lover's pain.
And I who loved as loves a boy must love in vain, must love in